Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah!
We got it! We got it!
New 52 booklet.
Somebody clip this.
Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared. So far, it's just me this week, but we'll make do. So today, I am talking about who is Marvel's Wonder Woman, because it's an interesting question. Because Marvel has quite a few female characters, a lot of which are like some of the most iconic characters in the Marvel universe. So it got me thinking, because I've been doing a lot of Wonder Woman content recently, thanks to you, Tom King, and I was like, okay, so who is Marvel's Wonder Woman? So the way this is going to be structured is I have an article from CBR that we'll go through. And then what I will do is I'll give you my list of, I assembled like 5 characters that I think are like equivalent or like embody certain characteristics of Diana. So let's get started. So actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. So 6 Marvel characters that are clearly inspired by Wonder Woman. We'll see. So let's go with this. Princess Zarda, aka Power Princess, is a carbon copy of Wonder Woman. Yes. Zarda, the Power Princess's first iteration was in the Squadron Supreme, similar to the Justice League, and the similarities to Wonder Woman are numerous. First, Zarda lived on a small utopian island, derivatively called Utopia Island, untouched by outsiders and considered a Homo sapien experiment conducted by the Kree. The inhabitants knew nothing of the real world. This is really much like Wonder Woman. However, when the atom bomb was created and the leaders decided Earth was no longer safe, they built a starship and set off for pastures new. Zarda stayed behind as an emissary and joined the Squadron Supreme. Instead of saving and falling in love with a pilot, she saved and fell in love with a sailor. And instead of using cufflinks and a lasso, she used a shield and redirected energy and sliced through metal when throwing a lot like a discus. Like Wonder Woman, she also possessed a super agility, strength, durability, and flight. The other thing about Zarda that's really interesting is she actually, and Teladia's here. Hey, what's up, Teladia?
What's up?
So we're talking about Marvel's Wonder Woman, and of course, I got to talk about Power Princess, because I'm sorry, dude, this is pretty blatant.
Yeah, of course.
Let me reread you the origin of Zarda. Tell me if this sounds familiar, all right? So she lives on a small utopian island called Utopia Island, untouched by outsiders and considered an experiment by the Kree. They knew nothing of the real world. However, when the atom bomb was created, the gods left, and she was there as an emissary, and then she joined the Squadron Supreme.
So much like Wonder Woman.
Particularly this middle image. I mean, look at this. Look at this middle image right here. I remember when this first came out, because it was an early episode of Under Two Capes, and it's why I did the Squadron Supreme episode back in the day. And Lad told me, Marvel has a Justice League, right? And I opened up in the Marvel Encyclopedia, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, even like Hyperion's origin is very similar to Superman. But even with this, because the new designs had just come out, and I'm like, okay, Marvel, you're not even trying to hide that you're copying from DC, are you?
They are copying DC.
I mean, look at that. Then we have America Chavez. Nope, she's not the teenage version of Wonder Woman. She's the annoying version of any character.
No, she's the annoying version of Miss Marvel.
Yeah. So I'm just going to skip that one. Miss America was one of the first female superheroes. Okay, fair enough. That's because Wonder Woman was, I believe, the first, like, at least big female superhero that DC had. So that counts. Mm-hmm. And then Thundra. Oh, Thundra's actually really cool, because there was the Squadron Supreme book that Marvel put out where around the time of Civil War II. Now, what's cool about this, Teladia, is that the Squadron was in this book was made up of like multiversal worlds that have been destroyed by like Iron Man and Captain, well, not Captain America, Professor X and Namor and all that. So they got her instead of the regular Wonder Woman, and she got into a relationship with Hyperion, aka Superman. Isn't it kind of funny that whenever Marvel lampoons DC, they put Wonder Woman with Superman?
It's only natural.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's very much only natural. Female Thor, in terms of powers, yes, exactly. 100% female Thor is like that. Her like acting selflessly, particularly after reading a little bit of female Thor. Yeah, I will give you that. Okoye is a powerful warrior from an isolated part of the world. Okay, that's very surface level, but okay. I love where after Black Panther came out, the debate was who would win, Okoye or Wonder Woman. And I'm like, Wonder Woman has powers. Okoye has a spear. How does that work? But anyway, so first off, Teladia, how are you?
I'm okay. State of play is on apparently, so there's that. And I'm just excited to talk about comic book characters with you.
All right. So now, so I have a list of 5 people that I think are Wonder Woman, and then I'll talk to you about what your list is. So number 1 is Storm.
Yeah.
Power level, leadership quality, particularly after X-Men 97, I would say 100% Storm. Number 2, Rogue. Power level and character arc. A lot of this goes with like character arc and power level. Plus, Rogue understands like being an outsider, and that's kind of what Wonder Woman is. Number 3, I don't mean the MCU version. She-Hulk. In terms of pure strength, She-Hulk is on that level. Plus, she is like, a part of the reason why I picked some of these characters is because they're like some of the most well-known female Marvel characters. And She-Hulk is definitely on that list. And next we have Emma Frost. Yeah, it's a lot of X-Men, but that's because most of Marvel's well-known and liked female characters are X-Men characters. And then obviously Power Princess, Princess Zarda, as we said earlier, because she's literally Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But so Teladia, what Marvel characters do you think are essentially their version of Wonder Woman?
I would say Storm.
Okay, that's a good one.
Second one is, in my opinion, Gamora.
Okay, good in terms of a warrior prowess. I like that. That's one I didn't think of.
Third, I would have to say it's between She-Hulk and Miss Marvel.
Which was, are you talking about Carol Danvers,
Yeah.
Ms. Marvel? Yeah, exactly. Back before she got turned into an insufferable character, yeah, I would say Carol, because that's what she kind of was. In fact, I always recommend read the Brian Reed run of Ms. Marvel. It took place after House of M. It's showing her trying to be like her own character. It's actually really good. Who else you got?
The Power Princess.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's inevitable. And I'll put a fifth one. If I have to be honest with you, maybe Spider-Gwen.
I mean, in terms of like, you could maybe make that argument, in particular in the Spider family. Yeah, you know what? I'll take it. She has that youthful energy. Yeah,
that's my list. That's my list.
That's an interesting list. And the thing is, like, a lot of these characters, it's kind of funny. The characters that we named are the characters that they couldn't make movies for when they wanted to make a Wonder Woman movie. Because for those who don't know, so in the early days of the MCU, the head of Marvel was Ike Perlmutter. And essentially, when they were making movies, he refused to make a female-led movie because he felt they wouldn't sell. And then Wonder Woman came out. So that gave Feige enough pull to essentially say, hey, listen, this movies will sell if it's good enough. So they looked at the characters that they had, because here's the thing. They couldn't use any of the Spider-Man characters because of Sony. They couldn't use any of the X-Men characters because of Fox. and they couldn't use She-Hulk because of Universal. So it's like they and also I think Sony also has Fantastic Four. The point is they couldn't make a Fantastic Four movie either because otherwise I would have said Sue Storm. So all they had was Captain Marvel. So she was like the last choice when you think about it.
Yeah.
Now, Teladia, the other thing I want to talk to you about with this is, okay, so let's talk about that Wonder Woman game that was announced a while ago, but we don't have any like absolute updates on this. So now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you with the fact that we haven't gotten any updates on it?
Well, obviously, I am concerned that we haven't got any updates for the Wonder Woman game, but I was just speaking to a friend. There is a very probable, likely chance that we could be getting something at Summer Game Fest.
Okay. Well, and now the question is it another like produced CGI trailer, or is it actual gameplay?
It could be a mixture, both. Like how Suicide Squad was. I think it wasn't a state of play, but it was at Summer Game Fest or one of the events, where it was a mixture of gameplay and cinematics combined.
Okay, they could do that. That'd be fun. Or it's like they kind of do that because I could see them eventually doing also the whole like. Remember how they had like Suicide Squad Insider?
Yeah,
kind of doing that, taking behind the scenes, because even though the game turned out to be crap, that was actually a good marketing idea to say here's how we're working on this. Here are all of the unique systems.
You would basically be a You'd basically be a Amazon insider.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, actually, you could call it that. Actually, that works. But now the question is, if this game comes out, do you think it'll be big or like successful? Because here's the thing: DC games have been taking a hit the past 2 times.
Well, this is their last chance, basically, last saloon for DC games. If this game does not hit off, you can guarantee Warner Brothers will be concerned about their next IPs going forward. Like, for example, the Superman game they'll be concerned about, or whatever it is that they've got with WB Games Montreal. You've got concern for a Batman game as well. Like, what are you going to put out there? They can't really rely on, they can't really rely on Wonder Woman being everything.
Particularly if you're dealing with a character that, again, doesn't get the respect she deserves. I've said that many times this week. And it's a character that DC likes to ignore a lot, even though they promote her as like their big female character. So it's like James Gunn launching his universe with Superman. It's like, I get what you're going for. The problem is you're dealing with an IP that's not as much of a sales guarantee. I mean, what they could have done, honestly, is come out with another Batman game and then introduce Wonder Woman in there and then do a Wonder Woman game. But I see why they didn't want to go with that, because again, everyone's tired off on Batman games. Then you like resort her to like a side character or something like that. I mean, I get what they're going for. It's just, I have concerns. Let me put it to you that way. I have concerns.
But at least it'll be better than at least it'll be better than I would say Suicide Squad, and it would definitely be better than Gotham Knights in terms of story aspects.
I still need to see more before I'm like, oh my gosh, we're saved. But I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it's being made by Monolith, the people who have made Shadow Mordor, Shadow War. And
True.
They literally made... Remember, what they originally had planned was a Batman game before they switched it into Shadow War, Shadow Mordor. But essentially, the assets they had were for that Batman game. But the story aspect was so great that they knew what they were doing.
Okay. I mean, that is true. Now, counterpoint, people said we could trust Rocksteady because they made the Arkham games, and then we got Suicide Squad.
That's the thing. Monolith isn't one of those studios to screw over the fans, right?
Okay.
Because if you think about it, Rocksteady, yes, they kind of screwed the fans over, but that was because I put the full responsibility on the people who originally told WB, "Oh, I want to make a, I want to make a live service game." Sefton Hill, Jamie Walker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Full responsibility goes on them for building this, Suicide Squad game. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had the Suicide Squad game. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. It'd be on something. We would have had something else, more along the lines of, we would have had something more along the lines of, let's say, a Superman game or a Justice League game, or more so another Batman game. We would have had something like that, right? But they just decided to go full live service. But what I'm essentially saying is that what Warner Brothers needs to do now is to look at Wonder Woman and say, look, single player driven games are the way to go forward, not to have live service games to be the full flow, the full blown thing to go forward for you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, on the bright side, that's what the Suicide Squad low sales and refunds actually helps, because we're voting with our wallets. So that actually does work really well.
We have to pay for the consequences for our actions, Jeremy.
Yeah, I know. But so going back to Marvel's Wonder Woman, the way I think now, let's talk about this, because we all know that the reason why we got Captain Marvel is because of this. Now, the thing is like, Marvel has been kind of like on the back burner for a while, ever since like Endgame ended, because look this way, they tried WandaVision was their best like attempt, because Wanda can also count as like, in terms of iconic nature, particularly nowadays with the MCU. But the thing is, then they followed up with She-Hulk, and then that show didn't do well. So it's like, when you think about it, Marvel really doesn't really like respect their female characters as much as they should. And that's one of the biggest problems with it. I mean, yeah, they have Black Widow, but the problem with that with her is that then you also make a controversial movie. The thing is, when they make these movies and projects, particularly about like the characters that they want to take off, because that's what they did with Captain Marvel. They wanted her movie to do well. That's why they released it in between Infinity War and Endgame, so you'd think it's required viewing. So they were like, okay, so we need Captain Marvel to be this iconic character, even though she wasn't. So they have to essentially walk on eggshells, because otherwise it's like, the movie comes out, bombs, and then all of a sudden it's not financially viable. All of a sudden Perlmutter is right, and you don't want him to be right, trust me. Because if you were right, you wouldn't have like Black Panther the movie. But the thing about it is like, then you also have what's actually kind of funny is that, remember when they tried to turn Wonder Woman into a Marvel character? Yeah, it's called 1984. That's pretty much what that was.
You know what? I'm trying to ignore that movie because it was a, PG, not PG. I'm trying to keep this PG as much PG as I can.
I'll tell you what. Here.
Why did you say that name?
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. It needs to be said. That needs to be said.
Mm-hmm. I know, and but the thing about it is that that's what happened. DC tried to turn their stuff into Marvel. Look what happened. I mean, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the Marvelized Superman suit. But regardless of that, I think that, so let's talk about this. How do you think Marvel can rebound with its female characters? Because personally, I think they have to do the long game with this. Pick a female character that they want to like introduce or rehabilitate. In the case of She-Hulk, have her star in a movie that you feel very confident in. Like have her like show up in like, let's say, Captain America or the Avengers. Yeah, there you go. That would work. Put her on the Avengers. And then if she's a big character, spin her off into her own thing. You don't just shoehorn her in, because otherwise we get She-Hulk. That's what happens. But how do you think that the MCU could like help make their female characters as big as Wonder Woman?
Well, obviously tell like a good, compelling story,
Mm-hmm.
but make the story dark and gritty. I think for Marvel, they need to. If they do that, I think you've got yourself a very good, you know, good good way to introduce powerful women into the MCU, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what they're lacking in right now is dark, compelling stories for heroes that would work, powerful, like let's say Storm or She-Hulk, because She-Hulk had a series, but it was a joke of a series. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even that serious, right? If they
Mm-hmm.
did a proper serious tone uh superhero movie, like let's say how BVS was, right? In
Mm-hmm.
that similar fashion, I can tell you it'd be a knockout. It'd be a knockout. What's it called, a home run. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way to put it. Yeah, a home run
Not only
for.
that, you're kind of seeing Marvel trying to like go more toward the like more darker movies, because we notice it's like even Chris Hemsworth came out and said, well, I'm not sure if it's Chris Hemsworth, but I think
Yeah.
it was like leaked that Marvel is looking to make a more dark and gritty Thor movie, and I'm like, that's the first step, because after Love and Thunder and the damage that Taika did, you really need to like at this point go the opposite direction, because yeah, Thor Ragnarok worked in some ways, in a lot of ways it didn't, but pursue a tone more akin to like Infinity War, because here's what that did. That got the humor in there 100%, where like he goes, I bid you farewell, morons. So you got the humor in there, but it was in small chunks, so it was more like meaningful. But then you also brought in all that serious like character moments and character beats.
Hmm.
But the problem is, will Marvel go for that? Because the thing about Marvel versus DC is that, at least in my opinion, Marvel takes the longest to like course correct. Although in the movies, who knows at this point, because DC is still trying to course correct.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what type of direction they would go for Thor. What type of direction they would use, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is, what if we get a Squadron Supreme movie? Now that's a little thing. I've long said, yeah, I know everyone's sighing because Jared brings this up every time, but I have to this time. Again, you cast all the Justice League actors as the Squadron Supreme, have Zack
Mhm.
Snyder direct it. That's the biggest FU to Warner Brothers, saying, oh, we got our own Justice League now. And watch, the Squadron Supreme all of a sudden becomes Marvel's iconic team. So now Marvel is out DCing DC. That's how you give like a big middle finger to DC on that. But I mean, you could do no. But here's the thing: you could kind of do that, because you could get in a little bit of the DC crowd going to a Marvel movie. As obviously, if you keep it like serious and stuff, and not go like crazy MCU on it. But if you say, okay, so we basically have Superman here, Green Lantern, or the Flash. So if you don't like what James Gunn is doing, just come over to Marvel. We have our own Justice League. So I'm serious when I say the potential is there for a solid Squadron Supreme, for the Squadron Supreme, not only overtaking the Avengers, but the entire Justice League as well. But who knows at this point? I'm just a random comic book YouTuber. But so let's see what else. Now, let me ask you this. Now, in terms of gaming, let's say this. What like Marvel character, what like female Marvel character do you think could actually work with a game?
Uh, that's not hard to really say because um, there's so many different, you know, there's so many different characters you could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I think if I was gonna start a really good starting point would definitely be as akin to a female character. Captain Marvel would be a really good choice. Black Widow would be another one.
Yeah, we got one, but again, it wouldn't be Natasha because remember she's dead. It would probably be her sister Yelena.
Yelena, yeah. It would be interesting to have Yelena to play, to have a video game based on that.
That'd be interesting because you can make it like Splinter Cell / like
Ubisoft type of game.
Yeah, essentially like that, where you play off all that spy stuff, and so yeah, and that could actually work. And you can kind of make it also a little bit of a first-person shooter thing, and make it like Call of Duty as well. Because again, a game where you use guns and shoot enemies. I wonder what that was like. But so continuing on. So for the rest of the discussion, what I really want to emphasize now is, so let me think here. In terms of Marvel's Wonder Woman, so now let me ask you. Now here's the interesting thing you could do here. So you know who's exclusive to Marvel?
Sony.
Charles Soule. So if you bring back the Squadron Supreme and make a Power Princess Hyperion book, have it drawn by Tony Daniel, you essentially have Superman, Wonder Woman, and Marvel.
I can see it.
There you go. Watch Marvel make their own New 52.
I hate to say it, but you might be right.
That's what I would do. Honestly, if I were in charge of Marvel, I would look at what DC screwed up in. I would do it, but do it better.
But not as I'm not a big Marvel fan, so
would that make you start reading Marvel though?
You know what? It might.
Be honest, sir. Come on, be honest.
Yes, it would.
Come on, yeah. There you go. I told you. Now that would be really, really cool if they actually, because that's what Marvel could actually do really well, is take what didn't work with DC and then do it way better.
But they're not that clever. That's the problem.
They're not that clever. Yeah, that's the problem, is that we as fans have these great ideas, but the companies never, ever, ever like go for it, which is, I'm like, okay, that is like, because here's the thing. I had the idea on Super Wonder Legacy of taking all the scripts of DC movies that never got made, like Justice League Mortal and Superman Lives, and making them graphic novels. That way you still get the story out and they're still canon. And Marvel, DC has kind of been doing that with like Superman 78 and Batman 89. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that they could just release these things as like black label books. The problem is they're not willing to. And again, this gets back to because here's the thing. It's relatively easy to at least fix the editorial problems at these companies. The problem is there has to be a will in order to do it. It's like how we always say, essentially, there's no reason for DC. Here's a better idea. Here's a better concept. It's like how we always say it's really easy for the movie people to bring back to conclude the Snyderverse trilogy. It's just a matter of there being a will. It's the same thing, because it's like if you took these concepts and adapted them, guess what? You would essentially reap the rewards. You would be giving your people more content they want, and you could stick your finger to DC. That's what Marvel loves doing. And honestly, I would buy that book, Charles Soule.
Of course.
Because they were pretty much together in every version of the Squadron Supreme. They're together at some point. It's almost as if Marvel is telling DC, hey, Superman and Wonder Woman should be together, not Superman and some annoying journalist. That's for you, Robert. That's for you. But so let's conclude with this. So Teladia, let me ask you this. Now that you've given me your top 5 list of like your top 5 Marvel characters that are Wonder Woman, how about your top 5 female Marvel characters?
Top 5 female characters. Number 5 is Miss Marvel. Number 4 is She-Hulk.
Okay.
Number 3 is I would have to say Spider-Gwen.
Okay, that's a good one.
Number 2 comes up runner-up is Yelena, Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1 is the original Black Widow, which is what's it called? Natasha Romanoff. Yes.
All right, that's a good one. So mine are Emma Frost is number 1, Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel for number 2. The reason why Emma Frost is my number 1 favorite is because I always love a good redemption arc, and she had a pretty extensive one, both in like Grant Morrison, Matt Fraction, not in Jonathan Hickman, but you get my point. In terms of Carol, let me put it this way, that Captain Marvel movie really broke my heart because it's like I love Carol as a character, but then you use the version of the character. It's like Teladia. It gets worse. What they did is they even haphazardly declared her the strongest hero of Earth, and I'm like, no, she's not. She's clearly not. So that really hurts me because it's like I have about 3 volumes of that Brian Reed run, which is like her getting like redemption stuff, and that was awesome. So continuing on, I would have to say, yeah, Black Widow is up there because I like characters that don't have to rely on crazy superpowers. Number 4 is probably, I would have to say, well, Power Princess, because pretty much Wonder Woman. And number 5, honestly, I'm gonna go with screw it. I'll go with Rogue because again, I particularly with like X-Men '97, I really dug like everything that like she went through in that season and how she went through like is she evil, is she good in terms of that like idea there. And yeah, so in terms of like other stuff. So let's real quick talk about the female characters in X-Men 97. Now, what did you think of Storm's arc in X-Men 97?
I thought she had a very good arc.
Mm-hmm. What else? And because
her arc of losing the powers then regaining it, like it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, and the cool part about that is that she got hit with like a power neutralizer, if you will. But the cool part about it is that they kind of made it so it's also like in her head, like her own self-doubts like took away her powers. So I kind of dug how they did that. Now, in terms of Rogue, the funny part about Rogue is that she was when the like stills came out and everyone thought that like they redrew the characters to make them look more androgynous and not like sexy, I was concerned. Then you watch the show, and I'm like, no, everyone is equally sexy in the show. They even have a shot of, they even have a scene where like Rogue is fighting Bastion, and she like backs up against the camera. She basically backs her butt into the camera. So I'm like, what are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking about? Yeah. And obviously I love Jean Grey because she's voiced by Jennifer Hale and the cool like effects and all that. So I dug that with the Phoenix. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like because of Chris Claremont, it's like most of Marvel's like really strong and really iconic female characters are the X-Men. And well, arguably a lot of Marvel's iconic characters, period, are like either from the X-Men or Spider-Man. And the MCU kind of helped Captain America and Thor and like Iron Man get like mainstream appeal because they were never these big characters pre-MCU. But really, yeah, that's why I could see in terms of like where they're going to go with the MCU to conclude, I really think that they're going to start we're going to start seeing like the last couple of Avengers movies, and then we won't get Avengers movies that often. We'll get a bunch of X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Because again, they have the rights to them now, so there's no reason for them not to go with their most iconic characters. So, I mean, but we'll see because thing about Marvel is that they have good ideas, and the problem is when they go to execute on those ideas, they flunk the execution. It's kind of like DC a little bit, but Marvel, I would say, is most on the good idea, bad execution. Except for, of course, when they did the Heroes Reborn story and literally turned Marvel into DC. That was actually a really good execution of the idea. So, so to conclude, actually, you know what? So, Teladia, where can one find you, and what have we got coming out on your channel? And remember, this is going to come out on Friday.
Okay, so on my channel, guys, you guys can well, first you can follow me on Twitter, which is at Teladia Plays _. If you want to check out my YouTube page, which is at Teladia Plays, I will be doing well, I will have a video out by the weekend, which is going to be about Summer Game Fest predictions, and as well my Marvel Rivals PS5 trailer announcement trailer reaction video, because they've just announced that as State of Play. So I'll be doing a reaction video. The reaction video will be out by then, and you guys can see how I feel about it. And it's coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam, which is going to be great. So expect that. Also, I got Snyder Fans Read Comics next week, which is obviously we didn't do it this week purely because I wasn't feeling well. So I want to delay it.
Bro.
So, but other than that, that's what I've got coming up. And make sure you do subscribe to Comics League, and also make sure you like the button, guys, and hit that join button. It helps out tremendously.
Heck yeah. So Britt and I are going to be merging DC with Blood and Zeus on Super Wonder Legacy this week. And for movie night, we're still trying to figure out what we're going to be doing for movie night. So stand by on that. And then, yeah, in terms of like because CLD is happening and all that, but we'll see what else is going on, because obviously there's like a lot of like news circulating. I will say though, my problem with Superman video is doing pretty decently, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, here comes the hate in the comments, but whatever. It's not changed my mind. But in terms of UTC next week, stand by on that. And in terms of the Comic Historian interview, that's going to be this coming Monday at 3:30 p.m. That's going to be me and Comic Historian to chat about comic book YouTubing and all sorts of other comic book YouTubing topics. It's going to be really fun. Be sure to be there. And it will be a live stream, so you guys can come in and ask him questions as well. I want everyone to ask at least one question. I will try my best to get to all of them. Although when you have a big guest like that, the chat just goes and it gets like a lot of people in there. So I will try to get to all of your questions. So on that note, everyone, stay heroic. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zoe is the Max Best.